Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 11%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to talk about media. I burn my decency for someone else's listening enjoyment. And the ego that started this podcast will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything! Welcome, everyone. I'm Gayfesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely DemonMama.
Hello.
And Moss.
Hello.
And today we will be discussing the third arc of Andor Season 1, the prison arc, episode 7 through 10. The arc is actually 8 through 10, but, announcement, episode 7 is its own little thing kind of in between. And it
plugs in pretty well.
It plugs in. Yeah. It's a good arc. God, this... Every time I watch this one, it just like the end. You just get so pumped. I don't know where to start, but I know that Moss, since you're new to the show, you can start.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, like where to even begin with this whole thing? Like, there's so many different things to go into. I feel somewhat remorseful that, in the first episode, I was like, Psh, the Senate stuff, who cares about that? Because honestly, I find that a lot of the commentary and thoughts that I have are about Mon Mothma, whatever the fuck her name is. I can never remember.
You got it.
Mon Mothma.
I got it right. Nice. So yeah, so that's where a lot of I don't know how much there is for me to take notes on the prison escape actual part of this, because it's just like, wow, that's a well-oiled machine that they've got working there. Like, the incentive system that they have is kind of perfect for keeping people going. And the idea that you're going to be released is a necessary thing to keep people working. And if you take that away, then the whole system kind of crumbles, as we see. Luthen is an accelerationist. Where do we even begin? There's so many things. It was
I literally
incredible.
have in my notes, Luthen is an accelerationist.
Yeah, it's the first thing that I literally, okay, so Luthen is an accelerationist. My first note in here. So I don't know, whatever you guys want to get into
Two of
first.
my favorite lines are in this arc. The first one being, I am the only one with clarity of purpose. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, obviously incorrect, but so beautiful. I love Saw Gerrera so much. He's so amazing. And then the other line, never more than 12.
Oh,
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
The sequence between Luthen and Saw, I was just sitting here going, oh, God damn it, I'm Saw.
Yeah.
I sent a meme to the group chat it was a tweet that says, I don't have friends on both sides. I have friends in 400 varying leftist splinters, and they all hate each other. And that's Luthen talking to Saw.
Yeah. I put in my notes, addressing leftist infighting.
Luthen talking to Saw before the PORD goes through. We all know who we're focusing on now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of feels like the timeline. Feels like the timeline right now.
There's a lot of stuff that I was watching in this episode that I'm like, why? This is what a show for our time.
Yeah, it was
feels
painful.
Very on the nose, almost.
It was more painful watching it this time than last time, especially, given that literally right now, 500, somewhere in that ballpark, people have been moved to an El Salvadorian prison without any sort of trial or any proof that they were even in violation of any immigration law. That just happened literally yesterday.
In defiance of a court order as well.
In defiance of a court order. Yeah, it is. It is this show has nailed our political moment. People talk about the curse of currentness, where shows try really hard to talk about the moment. And that's where you get Bush era media and stuff like that, which not all of it is bad necessarily, but it sometimes comes with this film, this sliminess that's oh man, it's so clear.
We're trying to watch any old seasons of South Park. It's
Saturday Night Live.
Yes, SNL's
everything
the worst.
Is disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's but this show is just no, I bullseyed this and that was my intention. And just watch how it unfolds, because
so masterful.
It is incredible. oh my God, there's so much I want to talk about. Okay, so you mentioned one thing, just so we have a point to go towards. You mentioned the like structure of the prison, and it's really funny because my partner and I, while we were watching, we were talking about in multiple ways how it is both extremely horrifying and also it is structured in such a way that maintains the themes of like imperial arrogance and also the theme of no one's listening. One thing that's really different between the prison that we see depicted in this show and a lot of like real prisons is that like agitations between the prisoners is like strongly discouraged to the point where like the structure of the prison basically makes it so there's only one real enemy. It is not the other prisoners. Every single aspect of it is like there's one guy up there that you know you can hate. And the reason for that, of course, is because they're desperate to get the materials that are being made.
So they need those teams working together.
Yeah, they need those teams working together. And also you can see how like severely understaffed they are, that there are like glaring issues.
It's literally the first thing is that there's not enough guards to handle Andor's transfer in. Like, you know, there's a guy who's late for his shift because he was handling something else. Like the first conversation that the guards have with each other is like, oh, they're understaffed.
Yeah. And the power doesn't that plugs in with his like power doesn't panic. They're like constantly panicking. They're constantly freaking out. And it's like, yeah, they've created this like genuinely horrible situation, but it's not even like benefit. Like it contains within itself its own defeat. Like they guarantee that every single prisoner in there knows exactly who to hate because of the way that it's structured. And there's like no room in this structure. It's so perfectly structured for producing the weapons that they want that like it leaves a glaring weakness, which is like a recurring theme in the show of the Imperials creating their own vulnerabilities.
Yeah, like we want them strong so they get to eat as much as they want, but then they're strong enough to fight back, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's kind of like almost a running theme too this show is very much like landing on the side of, yes, we can use the tools of our enemy to defeat them. Because like, you know, there's that iconic bit from, I think it's The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman says, this is the tool of the enemy. We do not need it. We will not use it. And at some point you're hamstringing yourself.
Well, you literally can only build with what you have.
Yeah.
I think it addresses sort of the frustration that I have with the liberal approach to these problems is like, when they go low, we go high. Like, I've developed this new belief system over the last few years, and it's called you go low, I go lower, bitch. Like, I don't understand what, like, I guess this is a moral quandary that's represented in media of this type, not infrequently, is like, in the course of fighting the enemy, who do you become? And like, are you losing something of yourself if you meet them at those tactics? And like the idea that, you know, I mean, in Game of Thrones, like, the slaves are like, well, the only language the masters understand is violence. And like, that is a pervasive theme we see. Whereas like, if your enemy is willing to use extreme violence, what are you doing if you're not meeting them with the same level of resistance? I think that something that gets driven home really well, I know that episode 7 is kind of a weird in-betweeny episode, but I think it fits this overall concept that like, there's nothing you can do under authoritarianism to make them leave you alone. Like, I would love to just go have a little homestead in the corner and just kind of do my own thing. But like, that is not good enough. Clem was like trying to help prevent a riot from breaking out, and he swung for it. And like Cassian, you know, in this episode, he's like, I'm not going to try to join the rebellion. I don't give a shit about your rebellion. I'm just going to go do my own thing. And they still like racially profile him and rough him up and put him in prison for a crime he did not commit. And like, it's so disproportionate too. And it almost feels exaggeratory, except that if you look at the current system that we have, like, those things are all happening. And like, it begs a question of like, what is expected of you? Like, you do at a certain point kind of have no choice but to join the rebellion, because just trying to live your life, they won't let you do it. They're going to use you for something else.
You can't keep your head down because they will still come after you. There's nothing that you can do to stop the machine.
Yeah.
And there is something else funny here too, in just like how incompetent and inadequate fascism is, that even though it is all pervasive, even though they have literally Cassian in prison, they don't know that they have him. The ISB is still looking for him. They don't know they already have him.
Yeah.
And the idea, you know, you've got all of these ISB agents with their well-pressed uniforms and everything, like all of the aesthetics of fascism are about, you know, order and efficiency, you know, the classic, oh yeah, at least the trains ran on time, shit like that. But it's just not true. Like when you start dismantling the, you know, social safety nets, when you start, I don't know, like sending Doge employees in and just like start like destroying things, like you know, it's destabilizing and it's stupid, and you kneecap yourself in the process too.
Yeah, there's a real sense of like they bring a lot of attention in the show to things like I'm trying to remember the exact line, but there's a line where like Partagaz and someone else are talking about like, oh yeah, okay, so it's when Deidre is giving her like pitch to the guy who's above Partagaz, and he's like, that's an expensive load of translation droids and whatever that you want. And she's like, yes, but it's necessary for us to catch the guy, which you of course brought to attention that they already have him in prison. Yeah. And they're like, okay, yeah, so now we're going to go and spend all of this money, all this incredible amount of money, just torturing two people on Ferrix and terrorizing an old lady. And it's like it lays bare that like what this structure really is a machine of fear and paranoia. That's like everyone involved in it is constantly terrified of each other, of themselves. You see throughout the whole show the Imperials constantly infighting with each other in like really stupid ways. They're all miserable. They're all constantly cruel. They're constantly policing each other. They're constantly pulling rank on each other. And characters like Deidre, we get the like closest look at her of her being like genuinely a truly miserable person. She's just unhappy all the time and terrified and displeased and running from something. And so what we see is that this machine is good at producing fear and pain. And that's about it. And it's all that it knows. The only language it knows how to speak is pain and fear on its own people and on anyone that it sees as an opposition, to great detriment. Exactly, you know, like you brought up, hugely wasteful, hugely inefficient. I mean, oh yeah, there's in the last episode, there's another example when they catch Anton Krieger or whatever, or his not Anton Krieger, they catch his guy, and they're like, oh yeah, just push the car into traffic, and they just no hesitation. And the reverse side of this, of course, is that we see Lonnie and why am I blanking on his name? Stellan Skarsgård. Luthen, thank you. What the hell? We see Luthen and Lonnie like having a huge emotional back and forth, going through all this pain to like decide whether or not they're going to leak the information on Anton Krieger, where they're gonna let him be a sacrifice. And the Empire is just like, oh yeah, just push his car into traffic and kill some people, and it'll cause an incident so that we can have cover for it. Oh, and shoot him in the head too, and put him in his car. It's just like, oh my God, like the difference in like moral considerations, even between the accelerationist.
There's a one line in that scene. It's the last scene of the arc that we watched was Lonnie and Luthen, but Luthen, you know, talking about Lonnie's family in a way where he's, you know, his tone and his words are, you know, friendly, but obviously it's a threat. It's, hey, I know that you just got a daughter. And Lonnie, who is an ISB officer, says it's not fair, you knowing. And it's like, yeah,
you watching me.
That's what spycraft is, man.
Did you think I wasn't going to be paying attention? You think I'm only going to rely on the information you decide to feed me? Like I don't need to be aware of the idea of double agents or triple agent, I guess.
Yeah.
In that case, like you're working for me, but you're working for them, but you're working for me, whatever.
It's a real like Luthen has to sit him down and go, bro, wake up. Like you do not, there's no way out. You are trapped just like I am. And you would think he'd know it, but it's like, it just shows that like even being embedded in an agency of that level, like it can undermine even this guy who took like a vow to a rebellion. You know what I mean? That he's like, oh man, like he starts to buy into its own messaging about itself. The like no one's listening thing is like, I love that whole part where it's like, you know, how much this structure relies again on paranoia and fear and not actual concrete. They have this whole facility that's designed to torment you and instill fear and literally physical pain. And yet it's like, yeah, they don't have the staff to be listening to every conversation that you have. They won't. They don't think it's important. They think you're like a rat. They don't care about what you're squeaking about, even if it comes to their detriment, because they can't even imagine that that's possible, because they could put themselves in your shoes and go, oh, I would be too scared to do anything if the floor would electrocute me if I did anything, you know.
They could
And it's
never
like,
rise against us. Look at our wonderful technology, like, you know.
exactly, yeah.
And they've built the entire prison around just like, oh, look how simple things are. See, it's just we all wear boots and they don't, so we can just fry them on the floor. But then it turns out, oh, there's actually all sorts of places that they can't electrify. Like what they're pointing out, looking at the rails, like, see, it's anything that moves is not electrified. It's only the floors. And this reliance to a fault on technology that can and will fail. It's the tech bro mindset of, you know, the right technology will fix it. This idea that you can remove the human element from an equation and have things still work. There's an example that Vosh has brought up a couple of times. It was like some book that he was reading about like medieval garrisons, and he's like, there was a line there that said that no garrison, no fortification can be defended without humans. Like, if there's nobody there, it doesn't matter. Somebody trying to get in with enough perseverance will get in. You have to have people to defend the system. And so when you tech bro away all of the people, you've just created a pretty significant single point failure.
Yeah.
Interestingly, in contrast to that, though, that they are using people to do the factory work. Like Cassian points out, like, we are cheaper than droids and easier to replace, I think is what he says. So it's like doing away with the human component of one aspect, but then like using human bodies for the purpose of like labor. I don't know. It's just
it's like a grudging acknowledgement of that, of exactly what you're saying, which is that, they actually do need people, and they can't offer anything to these people that would make them want to build what they're building. I feel like I don't remember the scene that reveals what they're building. Did I? Oh,
that's
it's
we
not
find
in
that
these
out at the end. No, it's in the last episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No spoilies, but
obviously the weapons of war. Like, I can surmise that it's probably some kind of machine for the Empire. And like, would people actually build that if they weren't being? They're slaves. Like, this is what prison labor is in the United States. Like, maybe people don't know that because it's kind of abstracted, but being forced to work like that is slavery, and it is legal. Like, it literally says the amendment that made slavery illegal. It says, except as punishment for a crime. It's legal to be a slave if you committed a crime, and they can invent the crimes, and that's the problem.
It's happening in prisons all across the U.S.
Yeah, they're trying to make it felony fraud in Texas for a trans person to use their legally changed gender marker. So they're inventing crimes.
Yeah, like, and you know, the United States has the highest per capita prison population, and that's not even under the current regime. That's right. Something that has been the case basically since the war on drugs. You know, liberals have upheld that system as well. It turns out that, you know, people in power realize that slaves are kind of handy, and they will literally, you outlaw slavery. It's like, okay, we'll invent sharecropping. Oh, you outlaw sharecropping? Okay, well, you did a crime. What crime did I do? Smoking pot. It literally grew in my backyard. You're going to jail. Now do slave labor. It's
too real. This, like I said, this watch through hurt even more than the last one, where I'm just like, oh man. I felt like the show was an attempt. It's an artistic attempt to try and prepare the viewers. And then it's also just like an acknowledgement of And it's like, it's not even, it's cleaner than the reality. It's nicer than the reality. And yet it's like, oh my God.
Can we talk about Andy Serkis's character?
Oh, please.
Yeah, Kino
God, I
Loy.
love him
Kino
so
Loy,
much.
thank you. I blanked on his name for like, I was thinking about his name and then like, let's talk about him, and then I forgot.
They had
What a
the
character.
honor. Yeah, they had the wisdom to call him Kino.
When true. Like I was talking about before, like this ties into the whole you can't just keep your head down, they're still coming for you. Like Kino thinks if he just keeps his head down, gets the work done, runs an efficient floor,
He's got less than a year.
he has less than a year left. He just needs to not make any problems, and then he will go. Once he finds out that no, they're never getting out, he knew from that moment, because like everyone saw going in, they saw, oh yeah, we're on a dam. Getting out of here means swimming.
Mm-hmm.
Once Kino knew that they weren't getting out, he knew he was going to die here.
Yeah. I mean, he said, I'm just acting as though I'm a dead man already.
Yeah. But doesn't tell us. We don't know until they get to the door and everyone's jumping and he's just like, I can't swim.
I refuse to believe that nobody helped him. Like,
the film language tells us that no, Kino died. I would love
it does.
I would love to see him come back, but
after
no.
he just gave a speech that was like, everybody needs to help each other. If you see someone stopped or confused, you need to help them. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter if he shows up in the show again. That's fine. I don't need him to show up in the show again. I just personally need to believe that someone, like a couple of guys, formed a raft with their arms together and like floated together. I just need that for myself.
Okay, well you know what? That's a good bedtime story. We'll tell you that one. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Totally.
With a little pat on the head.
Everything worked out in the end, then all lived happily ever after.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just no. And Andy Serkis, like I love that dude. You know, for so long we've seen him in digital performances in mocap. You know, like obviously Gollum, that he kind of invented the genre. And because of that, they just keep throwing him in. So, like he plays Caesar in the Apes movies, and he played Snoke. It's just really a delight to just see him act like a human being act, because he's really good at it. And I'm happy to see him play two characters in Star Wars, because Snoke wasn't really a character.
I did recognize his voice. Like I was like, that is Andy Serkis. I'm pretty sure that's Andy Serkis. Like iconic. I love that man so much. And like he is one of the reasons why I like Age of Ultron as well. Like just him in Marvel too is another opportunity to see him like actually get to embody a character without all the extra schmutz on there. Yeah. He's fantastic. I'm about to start watching those Planets of the Apes movies too, because he's in them, and that's it.
Yeah, no, you're gonna enjoy those. Those are
they're
movies.
Great.
Yeah.
Very thematically tied to this series.
The second movie is like the best anti-war movie I've ever seen, and I watched it going, there's a monkey on a horse with guns akimbo. It shouldn't be this good. That's schlock. Why is this such a good anti-war movie?
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting. So I don't know if, like, I guess for the audience, so the role that Andy Serkis plays is that of a capo, which is like in the Holocaust, there were people who were assigned by the Nazi SS to like oversee the labor. And that's like a term that's like in some communities it's used as a slur. It's like, I mean, quite literally a huge insult to be called like, basically a collaborator and overseer. And his role in this is a really interesting, different direction for that type of character, because usually we see a character in that role that is 100% like a collaborator. And in this case, we see a character who's put in that position who ultimately rejects it, who says, no, like I may die, but I refuse to like further continue this. And he is in that role for a while. Like he acts as the enforcer of the terror. Now he has a reason for it. He says, well, we don't get shocked as much if I do this, but that's always the case. When you're being put above other people, like you're still in prison, you're still locked in with them, but you're being given like a position above them. I think it's a very interesting like exploration of and interpretation, and also like saying like, you like this role, this is the promise that power is going to try and give you, that you get to be one step above everybody else, that you get to be the one who makes sure that no one else is hurt. But it's a lie. It's a fundamental lie. You are still in prison with them, and you have to make the decision to fight. You have to make the decision to say, no, I'm not going to perpetuate this anymore. I'm going to help these people get out. And in his case, he gets freedom of a type, but it's not, well, unless it's Moss's version, and then he does get freedom. But yeah, he doesn't get to see the sunrise, so to say.
Yeah, there's a clear parallel between Kino and Luthen's speech at the end.
Oh, they go straight. The scenes are juxtaposed. Like literally, it goes from that scene, I can't swim, cuts over to the conversation. Like, or it might be the other direction. I can't remember now which way it goes. Yeah. But there's a direct juxtaposition between those two sentiments.
There's some themes of like sacrifice and the potential of not reaping the reward in an immediate sense is something that is touched on multiple times here. Like with a lot of different characters, Mon Mothma, like with Luthen, with Kino Loy, like that you might sacrifice a lot, and sacrifice comes in many different forms. Some people have to live a double life. Some people have to go out there and physically risk their bodies. Like there's all these different types of sacrifice and all these different types of risk. And the show it does clearly equate that to heroism, like to sacrifice yourself in pursuit or in honor of like a greater good, a greater goal is the definition of heroism. But like, I don't know, I forgot where that thought was going actually. Somebody else picked it up.
I mean, I think I see where you're going with it at least, and you can tell me if I'm going the wrong direction. But
the ADHD just crashed my brain.
It happens. It's this show's thesis of what makes a hero. Of what makes a hero in this particular situation, which is everybody is being choked by this overwhelming fist of empire. It's crushing everyone, and there's one way out. And if you are courageous enough to see that one way out and do what you can, even if you won't reap the rewards, even if someone else is going to be the recipient, even if you will never be recognized, like Luthen, of course, is the most extreme on that end, where it's like he will not be remembered. No one even knows that he exists. The only
Luthen is not in the any of the movies. He's not even in Rogue One. I don't think Luthen's making it. I genuinely do think he's going to die in service of the rebellion, and the only people who will remember him will be people like Mon Mothma and Cassian, and that's about it.
Yeah, he'll live on in their memories maybe, and it's a small group. They explicitly say multiple times, like, how small the group is. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, even if he lives, the reality is that like his reputation will not. Like he, as an individual, he has no legacy within the universe. At least no explicit legacy that's tied to him as an individual. He has a massive impact on the world, but he will never get the credit for it. He'll never get the gratitude for it. And that's a wild thing to consider. And we see all different like styles of this. We see or a spectrum of it. You know what I mean? Where it's like Mon Mothma, where it's like everyone thinks of her Mon Mothma and Vel both are like they are perceived in one way, and the reality is different. Like their public memory is completely not accurate to what their actual like contributions are. And obviously we know where Mon Mothma goes later, so her path is a little different. But all these characters land somewhere on that spectrum.
Perrin even says to Vel, is like, oh, thank God you haven't gone political. Everyone's so boring.
So that conversation is so good. That whole back and forth at that dinner table it's so good.
Well, and there's also just like the passive, like, the show doesn't directly address homophobia, but like there definitely seems to be that tint to it. Like Chandrilan society obviously has some regressive tendencies. They do arranged child marriages for God's sake. And the assumption Perrin makes is, get a husband. And she's like, I wasn't looking for one. And it looks like how Partagaz telling Deidre, hey, you're in a sexist environment and you need to act like it. The ways that the show touches on that without like lecturing about it, without like grandstanding, or without having to make it explicit. It's just part of the fabric of it, just little bits here and there. It's great.
I would love to elaborate on that because Dedra is an amazing character. Like, obviously she's an evil psycho. Like, I just want to say that, obviously. But when I say like I like her is because this episode really brings it full circle for me. She experiences the full scope of what a woman experiences in her professional and personal life. Like, with the exception of like being a mother, which tends to be a primary theme for a lot of female characters. But leaving that aside, she is in a sexist environment at work and she's constantly confronting challenges. Her bestie at work is a gay boy, like, there's something interesting to say about like the fascist girl boss gay boy team up. I don't know, but like she's dealing with all that at work. And then so there's like this contrast between her lack of power there versus like her power in the position, like when she's on Ferrix, and like that she obviously relishes in that power. And she is very, very good at her job. And she likes being very, very good at her job. And she has to meet that higher standard she has to excel in order to be accepted. But then also, okay, I like Cyril and I understand a lot of his motivations, but this behavior is objectively scary and deeply uncool.
Oh, it's stalking behavior. Yeah.
It's stalking. Yeah. So Dedra also experiences like being a female who has a creepy, mediocre man like obsessed with her and stalking her and making her feel like a potential victim. So like the duality of her experience is so fascinating to me, that like these different roles that she has in these different aspects of her life, and that she's being affected by sexism, like you just said, in a way that is like, it works seamlessly into the story. But if you're like tuned into the experience of walking through the world looking like a female, like it's like, wow, that is so artfully done. And you can see it from all angles for her. And I just think it's really well done.
This show is very depiction forward. It is very much a show, not tell type thing. And when it does do the telling, it's earned. You get some of the Nemec stuff where it's like, it feels like you get it from this character who's like, it feels very earned. And I like that. I think it works very well in this, show's favor, that it takes the time to really make you walk that walk. You have to step into her shoes. Also, I wanted to say, you mentioned that like, she clearly enjoys what she does. The scene with Bix.
Oh God, yeah.
She's crazy.
Yeah, but it's like, it's shot like a BDSM porno. It is ridiculous. She literally
it's very intimate.
She's puts her face up because she's cradling this, she's cradling Bix's face and staring into her eyes, and we get all these shots of like extremely intimate shots. It's very, very, and she's like grinning and it's clearly in her elements. The happiest we ever see her is when she gets to like exert her power and dominance over someone else. It's very sexual, and it's an interesting choice, to picture that way and to show like. I think it plays more into like it plays further into the ways that these structures contort and entrap people. That it's like, this is her outlet. This is her. She sees this as like a way of reclaiming control, just torturing this random person, the control that she doesn't have in every other aspect of her life that she has to fight tooth and nail for. And this is her like outlet. And it's so twisted and unanalyzed and integrated. She doesn't even acknowledge that that's the case. It's all just, a expression of pain and violent desire without any sort of reflection on it. It's just, I gotta find my person and do my job good, even though I'm clearly taking some kind of pleasure from tormenting this random person from Ferrix who operated a radio, and did some, illegal deals on the edge of the galaxy that just so happened to be relevant. It's wild. I love the choice to depict the intimacy of the type of violence that's going on there. And of course, there's like, I guess as a comparison or as a side-by-side, we have Gorst, Dr. Gorst.
He's so scary.
He's like, ooh, I can't wait. We've been refining this torture method. And he's just very blunt about it. Like it's
his autistic hyperfocus.
He's genuinely friendly, and that's what's so unsettling about it.
Yeah,
is like,
he's like, oh, don't be sad. Like the restraints are for your own protection. He's just like, I think it works to put them side by side because we see like two different types.
Kinds of sadism.
Yes, exactly. Two different forms. There's like the hyper repressed, and then there's just the oblivious. Like Gorst doesn't even.
Oh boy, here we go killing again.
Yeah. He doesn't even acknowledge, like, he's not capable of or doesn't care to acknowledge like the fear in the situation. He's just like, ooh, these terrible, he's like, there's this part where he says like, oh, we believe these were the sounds of children dying. And it's just like, oh my God, like, but there really isn't a difference between Gorst and Deidre. It is just the aesthetic that makes them different. They are functionally engaging in the exact same thing.
I mean, it's literally good cop, bad cop, right? Like,
I mean, it's like bad.
You don't think either of them are playing good cop in this situation.
but like good cop is willing to like beat you up and everything. But like he pretends to offer you a deal and is very nice and everything, but then actually does something messed up. It's like,
it's something. There's something like that going on. It's like. But yeah, they're playing off each other, but it's also very much for the viewer to be like, oh, like this is two people indulging in the same exact dominant, I have control over your life. There's nothing you can do about it. Your body is my plaything. It's a certain type of indulgence that we see depicted two separate ways. We see from the character that we're very familiar with, who's, sort of tightly wound and repressed, and we see her like, I'm scary, look at how good and strong I am. And then we see the guy who's just like, oh, I'm gonna torture you now, have fun. Wee.
Cyril, this arc, I feel like you could write a whole thesis just on his story here. There's like so many little moments, like, there's the emasculization of, constantly being berated by his mother who violates his privacy. And here he's working at this like vast cubicle farm that like
the hellish open office floor plan, like the worst version of that.
Well, and like Cyril is such a believer in order and in the Empire. Like he is a true believer, but he sees this part of it. This is what makes it work, and it's like his nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That in order to get everything to run means dehumanizing yourself as well as others. Like there's no victors. It's like in 1984 when they talk about how like the leaders of the party all just torture each other because that's all that power is to them is just. But there's this little moment that I think just says so much about Cyril, and it's they're on the catwalk looking at the cubicle farm, and a mouse droid comes by, and Cyril dodges around the mouse droid, and a mouse droid would obviously move out of the way. Like the first time we see a mouse droid is when Chewie roars at one and it screams and flees the other direction, right? Like they're like Roombas or something. They, look, I have a Roomba. Sometimes I will step out of the way if it's coming, but sometimes I will just bump it with my foot so it goes the other way.
Yeah.
But Cyril is so dedicated to order. He's like, no, that thing's doing what it should be. I need to get out of the way for it.
Like the system as is, he preserves it.
Yeah.
And yet he can. That's why he has to constantly push the false inquiries that he gets questioned on. And he's constantly. So it's like he lives in a state of contradiction. And we see this even back at the beginning where the system as it works, the smooth and efficient way to run the system would have been to listen to his boss at Primor to say, oh yeah, just, whatever, those guys died. Who cares? The machine moves on.
Just write up the report and fucking move on. Yeah.
Yeah. He has this part of him that's like, oh, I love order. And yet he can't help but desire to change and bend it to his will how he can. And yet so he lives in this state of contradiction. Also, I really love, you all brought up the terrible open floor plan. I love the direct parallels that are drawn between Cyril and Andor's experiences, one in a literal prison work camp and one just voluntarily, as voluntary as anybody can be in this system. But I mean,
in a
it's
job,
like,
yeah.
Uncle Harlow has come in and given you a job that you hate, doing something that you hate that's humiliating to you. They, Andor wakes up in the morning and eats his flavorless paste.
No
And
privacy.
you see all the prisoners doing
place.
that. No privacy. Yep, no privacy in either place. They have their stuff searched, their stuff taken away. So does Cyril. Cyril's mom is going through his stuff, surveilling him constantly putting him down. He eats we see him eat the exact same cereal every single morning that
the blue milk
clearly hates with the blue milk. Like, he clearly despises. He doesn't even eat the food. He's just like, I'm going to pass this up. And then he goes into his job where he sits in a horrifying warehouse in a tiny cubicle with 2 screens that are in green. There's no color in the entire building. And you just hear this horrible din at all times. It's like, the dude's also in prison. They're just a little nicer for him. He has a little more wiggle room because he put himself in there voluntarily. He was like, I'm going to get this job that has me doing random menial tasks for a giant empire that does not care about me at all.
Yeah. They drive that home, I think, a couple of different times. Like you said, Cassian also repeatedly says they aren't listening. They don't care about us. He said it in the Aldani arc as well. They're not going to learn. They don't care about you. They don't think about you. They don't consider your motivations. That's why they don't understand. That's why they're unable to predict our actions, is because they don't, they are not capable of actually thinking of us as people and empathizing and understanding our strategies and stuff. We're meaningless. We are nothing. We're numbers to this machine. Basically, they own us and they can do whatever they want with us, whether it's imprison us or basically coerce us into doing labor. Again, exactly the same system that we have now. It's how voluntary is any job if you are pressed and coerced because the alternative is homelessness and squalor? It doesn't work that way.
We even see that Cyril's room is about the same size as Andor's. And it has a window that looks out on gray concrete and nothing else. And they repeatedly draw attention to him just sitting there depressingly looking out the window I want to die. It's incredible the way in which this show is able to sell the universality of oppression under empire, the universality of the experience, that even people who convince themselves that they're not, that no, I'm we hear very clearly Cyril's his narrative about himself. I was a good Primor deputy officer, or whatever he calls himself. I was good at that.
He solved a murder in 2 days.
And we hear his narrative. And guess what, bro? You sit in your tiny cubicle with your mom going through your stuff, constantly putting you down, constantly at the behest of everyone else, completely ignored by the powers that be. And your outlet is to become a creepy stalker of one lady who you're enchanted with because you see her as what you wish you could be.
All he needed was to find one psychopathic baddie to make life worth living again.
That's he literally says that. It's so blunt. It's unbelievable. I am, this whole conversation we're having makes me very excited for season 2. I'm interested to see where they go. I think this season we're going to get a lot with Cyril, and I hope so. I've been very interested to see the direction that they go with his character in the second season. And I don't want to say anything about the last 2 episodes because we're going to watch those and talk about them next week. But I'm going to say, I'll just say, especially with the next 2 episodes, which you'll be able to listen to us talk about soon.
Yeah. Well, I have to imagine that Moss is probably going to watch those episodes as soon as we're done recording. Cause I know you watched
I have stuff to do today.
Okay. All right. But cause after we recorded the last one, you were like, okay, so I already watched the next episodes. I'm like, we're not recording for 2 weeks.
I know. I just felt a lot of incentive to continue, and I will. It's Monday and I'm supposed to work.
I gotcha. I
get that.
I'm gonna be a good boy.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Mon Mothma. We're kind of getting to the end here, and I want to make sure that we touch on things, even though I fully expected this to go longer than an hour because there's just so much to dig into anyway. So her family's going to screw her over. That's my prediction that I'm making. It's like Perrin and her daughter are both like watching her now and are suspicious, and it's going to go badly. I don't know why she's so upset about the idea of putting her kid in an arranged marriage. That kid fucking hates her anyway, and that's not getting better anytime soon, from what I can tell. Also, there was this conversation, and I ended up just kind of looking up a transcript and copying the entire conversation down because I thought that it was so interesting. But there's like a scene in Mon Mothma's place where they're having a discussion about the new PORD and like the idea of like how much security is enough security, which reminded me of a Philosophy Tube video where she asked a similar question of like, well, okay, I understand increased security for a short time after a terrorist attack or an event or something, but when does it go back to normal? And the answer is that it never goes back to normal. But yeah, I thought this was a really interesting conversation that like, what did she say? She says, I'm worried about your definition of wrong.
Yeah.
Like if, the whole, if you're not doing anything wrong, so many of the quotes in that tiny little conversation are like, that's what it's like living in America, where people say these things like, you shouldn't worry about the surveillance. Like if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't have to worry about it. And it's like, well, but if you increase like what you consider wrong, then more and more and more people get caught in that net. And also directly asking this senator guy of like, okay, well, what are you worried about? Do you actually feel in danger? Speaking to the white moderate, like, do you actually feel in danger? Like, yes, actually, I do. Smarmy way of deflecting the actual question, which is like, of course you don't feel unsafe on Coruscant.
I watched Fox News for 14 hours yesterday, and everything scared me.
I'm so terrified every day now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are we actually trying to solve? Like, what is the problem that we're actually trying to solve? Is anyone actually less safe because of these rebel activities, or are people less safe under Imperial oversight? I don't know. It's like,
I mean, I think this show definitely has an opinion, which
yes, it does
constantly. Yeah,
wrong opinion.
That you don't get the safety that you want. That a danger is created. The danger of thousands of people being put into forced labor in the name of safety, and this never-ending expansion of what is considered wrong, which we see. We see that like an example of this is the groomer panic in America. This idea that and how blurred the lines are. That it's being trans is you're a part of the groomer panic. A kid wanting to play a trans kid wanting to play sports with their friends is somehow rolled into this groomer panic. It's absurd. And so there's this massive equivalency of what is wrong and what is using extremely charged language. We see that like in this case, there's like one of the things that Deidre says to Bix is like, oh, you have no history of political like problematism or something like that, or political
troublemaking,
something like that. Yeah. And it's like, and it's just like, it's like, oh yeah. So being a political troublemaker means, and of course that doesn't stop you from being tortured. You have no history of political troublemaking. Well, we're going to torture you anyway. And of course, if you had a history of political troublemaking, well, maybe you're just considered a terrorist now, because it's clear that's where you were going with it anyway, even if you didn't do that thing. And we obviously see that with like with Pac. One person used his radio, and the guy paid the ultimate price. They literally are like, "Yep, we're going to hang him."
Yep.
And it's like the dude was literally not. He was like his idea of political troublemaking was that he met one time with somebody who was a separatist. And it's like, that's all that they need. That's how broad the definition of wrong can get, how blurred the lines between these accusations can get.
Like one of the charges they gave Cassian was anti-imperial speech. Like what? What did he say?
Probably when he was trying to countermand the troopers' order to hang on to him. Yeah, he's like, but he's like, no, he meant watch me. He's like, so now you think you know better than the Empire?
You think you know better than the Emperor?
And I just have to say, like the resisting judgment charge thing, so on the nose. Like and it mirrors the resisting arrest. You don't have to actually be doing anything. And
I remember seeing like a video of somebody being arrested and demanding to know what's the charge, and the cop said the charge was resisting arrest.
Yeah.
How can you be arrested for resisting arrest before you're being arrested?
it's full of contradictions. And I will say my last thing I want to say about Mon Mothma before I'm like, okay, I have that, I can close that part of my brain. We see her in this arc, like this is the liberal who has been bending the rules, confronting her discomfort with actually breaking the rules. Like she's been like, ooh, technically what I'm doing is not explicitly wrong. I just set up a charity. It's fine. Technically it's all on the books. And like now she's confronted with the idea of like working with someone she finds unsavory and having to sacrifice stuff that she doesn't want to sacrifice. Again, tying in that thing of like everybody here is sacrificing something. She doesn't get a break anywhere in her life. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, like, the guy wants an arranged marriage for his son. Mm-hmm. And like, I know you said that
high status arranged marriage.
That I know you said her daughter sucks, and like, yeah, she sucks, but she's a teenager. She's in that rebellious area. She'll grow out of it. But if she's married to the son of this, like, crime lord, then their families are connected kind of permanently.
Yep.
Yeah, which is what he clearly wants. He wants his son to be married to the daughter of a senator. That gives a lot of status and a lot of access through Coruscant. Leverage.
Mon Mothma's arc, her whole thing is very Game of Thrones. Like, like every time she and Luthen go and meet at his thing, it's like going to the betrayal garden with
we're hanging out in the water gardens.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, it's the politics and the intrigue and the arranged marriages for favors. Like, that's all Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's I can never remember Mon Mothma's daughter's name, and I literally always just call Lita. I always just call her Groipette because that's like literally what she is. Like, she's the Groipette. She's like, oh, I love the Chandrillin. Like,
there's some of that we're going to see later. Like, I think that gets more explicitly stated in the next couple episodes.
We see her be like mad at her mom and always taking like the dad's side, and like she's talking about the like, oh, you're drinking squibs or whatever they're called. Which is like,
but Mon Mothma's not even drinking them. That's her dad, but she's mad at her mom. She's disgusted at her mom because and there was that bit when Vel gives her the dress, and then she's like, oh, I love it, and she's like, oh, you should check with your dad that if it's okay. It's like, my dad lets me do whatever I want. Like, just immediate snottiness. Like,
yeah, and it's like we see for sure that like Perrin is the like conservative griller of the house, he's just like, he always like, oh, thank God you didn't make it political. But it's very clear that everything that he does and the people that he hobnobs with are all conservative figures and like outright imperial figures. And
hey, honey, it's okay if I invite Tucker Carlson for dinner, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's literally how it is. And so she favors, like, we see this daughter as rebelling against the cringe liberalism of her mom. That's why I just am like, she's a Groipette. She's just like, oh, mom is such a cringe liberal. It's such a cuck. And I don't know. It's wild. And yeah, I don't know. It's this is when it gets really personal for Mon Mothma. She had distance to everything. She got nervous about the Aldhani stuff, but now it's like, you have to decide whether you're going to continue this, whether you're going to take the fall, or but continuing this means you got to sit down and work with a gangster, a giga corporate gangster who's like, yeah, I want to cynically use the like Chandrillin traditions to promote my political position. And she's basically being asked to like sell her child.
Yep.
And that is a horrible, horrible position for her to be in. And it's like, you see her whole life is the idea that you can be in the most lavish prison imaginable. And they do a very good job of illustrating.
There's a shot right after Vel leaves, and it's just Mon Mothma standing alone in her gigantic apartment.
Yeah.
But you can see just the framing of like one of the passageways, one of the doorways just is like slowly closing in on her as she's all alone. And it's just, even though she has this lavish apartment, she's trapped.
Yeah. She's trapped and tortured in her own way.
I want to talk about Marva. I know we're getting toward the end. We try to limit this, but I want to talk about it.
We can go longer because we watched 4 episodes.
Yep. It was 4 episodes. Okay.
2-hour podcast.
We'll go as long as it damn well takes to talk about it all.
Exactly. I'm rebelling against the time limit. This is my rebellion.
So Marva, the last time we talked about Nemix, speculating on the role of a mercenary in a rebellion, Marva kind of helps us see what is the role of like a disabled person in a rebellion. Like, and I'm saying disabled because like basically being old is just being disabled by time.
Yeah.
You occupy a similar social space where you're like
old and she has an
bad
old
knee.
injury. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she wants to fight back, like so many disabled people want to fight back. And she is able to do that, or would be better able to do that if she were more willing to accept community support. Like she keeps not wanting to do what people are asking her. She's not turning up the heat. She doesn't want to take the medicine because it is reducing her appetite and she doesn't want to keep doing it. She'd rather eat, which like she's old. She should be eating. Like I would say prioritize that for sure. But like she's resisting all this attempts at helping her, which I find that's kind of what makes her sort of tragic to me, is like seeing her as like, yeah, she is a disabled person who feels very strongly that she wants to help or contribute in some way, but none of this can be done as an island. Like you have to be willing to accept help. And especially as a disabled person, you have to be willing to accept the additional supports that are needed for you in order for you to participate. I mean, it's the same thing. Like we could accommodate disabled people to work because most disabled people want to do something productive. Like we want to work. It's just that the whole system is designed in a way that it's like the company is really not obligated to accommodate you. Really, like technically they're supposed to, but they can make up some excuse about like, oh, you have to be able to lift such and such without assistance. Like, okay, well, you're basically just saying we don't want to help people be able to do the job. We would rather have people who are like younger and we can churn through their bodies more easily. So I just find her kind of inspiring, but also very sad.
I love that scene with her and Cassian when she tells him that she's not going and
she can't.
But also just he's like, but I'll be worried about you all the time, and she's like, that's just love. There's nothing you can do about that. And I don't know, the way that she loves Cassian, just the way that she expresses it, and there's like there's another line that's coming up in the next arc that I'm thinking more specifically towards. So I'm not going to quote it yet because I want you to get there because that's a moment.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just love it. She's a mom who loves her son, and it's pure and it's great. And I love Martha. She's great.
So strong, and also like she's seen so much shit.
Yeah.
And she had a very similar mentality to Cassian, which is just, we got to survive. We got to find our way to like do what we can. I mean, she was literally a illegal scrapper. They go and they steal shit from the plane before the Republic shows up. And it's like, yeah, I love Marva's character. And I think, Moss, you'll be pleased with the coming episodes because Marva is a big part of these coming episodes. And
big part.
Yeah, big part. And I really love that, like, I love the way that, like, there's this one conversation where it's like Bix and Brasso, and they're like, oh, well, she's not your mom. It's like, well, she's not your mom either. Like, we just got to take care of her as best as we can. And yeah, she's like a little crotchety sometimes and resistant in some ways, but like ultimately it's because she loves her community that she has this pain over her son being driven away and her husband being killed. So she's just like, no, like my time is almost done. I want to do whatever I can. Anything. There's one line where they're like, oh, I caught her trying to break open the
floodgate.
Yeah, a floodgate to see if the old path under this building is still there, if they didn't brick it up. And it's just like, it's another type of rebellion that we haven't really seen yet, which is just like this spontaneous, almost irrational, but like seemingly irrational from the outside, where it's like, no, like, you're an old lady, like, you can't go trying to wrench open a floodgate, like, but also she's it's like completely,
I'll be damned if you're gonna stop me trying.
Yeah, she's like, you completely understand where she's coming from, where it's like, it's a rebellion of desperation and yeah.
There's a line from Jojo Rabbit where they are going by the town square and they see the people hanged there. And Jojo asks his mom, what did they do? And she replies, what they could.
Yep. My favorite part of Jojo Rabbit.
I want to say two things real fast. One,
Please.
no gay sex allowed in the prison. They said you'll get zapped if there's two men in one cubicle. No gay sex allowed.
Wow.
And the other thing is that I think the most powerful line from this entire arc, and genuinely every time, like I've watched these 4 times, and every time I cry, like so much that I didn't even catch the second half of the line the first couple times I watched this episode. Kino is on the speaker at the end, and he says, he's got this whole monologue, right? But the part that gets me every time is that he says, if we can fight half as hard as we've been working, we will be home in no time. And it's like, I don't know. I don't even understand what it is about that, but it's like, it hits me right in a spot that's just an immediate, like emotional reaction.
That's
that,
that's
we
the
could
last
carry that forward.
Speech. Literally, the only thing he says after that speech is one way out. So,
oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I also love, as a note onto that, I really love like Cass's role in that is like cheerleading. He says, that's the best you can do. Come on, you can do this. You're the only one. You're the one guy who they'll listen to. My
accent is too thick. I can't do it.
my accent is too thick. And also, they don't know who the hell I am. Everybody, like all the other heads know that you're ahead. Like, come on, give them the energy they need to spark this. And it's like his like being the cheerleader instead of like, because most of the show we see so much of Cassian being like the protagonist, and in that moment he passes the baton over to somebody else, to a guy who was in that position, like I said before, of being an overseer on behalf of the Empire, and who said, fuck no, let me break this once and for all. It's great.
Yes. And now I don't have any more things to say.
Okay. All right. DemonMama, any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it. I think I got everything out. What a great conversation.
I think that we can call it then. We will come back next time with the final 2 episodes of season 1. And boy, like season 2 is going to come out like really soon. Actually, when this when this episode comes out for listeners, I think it will either have just premiered or will be just about to. So boy, I look forward to that. I definitely look forward to covering season 2 on the podcast once that's all done. But we'll probably take a break and do some Star Treks.
Yes.
But anyway,
yes, Star Trek. I'm also super excited for Star Trek.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been Gayfesh.
I'm Moss.
And I'm DemonMama.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.